Hey, Shalom, Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. I want to send double honor to my elders, apostles, and bishops at Great Millstone who rule well. Peace, love, and citations to the Hopeful Ekdakim doing this work. This is the brother you'll call Lamath with the Great Millstone Camp, the branch out here in Omaha, Nebraska. Coming back with another lesson, Lord willing, to feed and to edify the lost sheep of the nation of Israel through the Holy Spirit, Racha HaKodash. With the Israelites consisting of the so-called Negroes, the so-called Hispanics, and the so-called Native Americans by the seed of your father, no matter what you may look like. And I just want to get into this lesson real quick. More of a hit the button type of situation, and this is influenced by a statement that the elder Yashawamba from the Great Millstone Dallas camp that he mentioned in one of his lessons. I forget the title of the video. It was dealing with making sure that we're fearing in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. And I'll post the video itself in the post production in the description box. But and in so many words, what the elder said, he was speaking of hope, and he was speaking of the hope of a man of the Lord, and also the hope of those in the world, how those two hopes are different, and immediately when the elder made this statement, I started examining where my hope was, and this is why I said I have to hit the button, man, because we will, we do say, we trust in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai, and it's not saying that no brothers and sisters that say that you actually don't. It's just that really examine it, look at your works, look at your mindset, and see, does it line up with something being acceptable or pleasant in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai's eyes, and this is what I told myself when I heard it, these same questions that it's the same thing I said to myself. Okay, I'm not sure how long this lesson is going to be, but I just want to get into a couple of words, a few precepts, and may this be edifying. And I'll start here in the Etam Online, and I'll get that word hope. As once again, the men of the Lord, our hope, it should be different from those of the world. So getting this word hope in the Etam Online, it says, Old English Hopian says to have the theological virtue of hope, hope for salvation, mercy, trust in, right? And then in parentheses it says the Most High's word, to have trust, have confidence, assume confidently or trust, and one thing where our hope is at is getting salvation, the righteous kingdom being set up. Those heathens, the Edomites, the so-called white people that are ruling this world in wickedness, that they're put in captivity, right? And then that we could get assured peace forevermore. That is the hope of the men of the Lord. Okay, we trust in that. We're confident in that. Okay, because even when you get into the word confident in itself, breaks down to with faith. Con meaning with, fidel meaning faith, or fidel, right? So it means with faith. The hope of an individual in the world, is, building their own empire here, via through, business ventures, having some type of franchise that they can pass down to their kids and their kids' kids and their kids' kids' kids. Okay, which is, it's nothing wrong with having a business. There's plenty of brothers, that have their own business. All right, but that's not where their hope is, as it says in the book of Matthew. Let's get that, Matthew 16, I believe. Or is it Matthew? No, Matthew 6 and 19. Okay. which says, lay not up for yourselves treasures upon earth, where moth and rust doth corrupt, and where thieves break through and steal. Right? These are tangible things. Our possessions that we have. All right, whatever that may be. A nice vehicle. Even the family structure. If our treasure is laid too much into our family, or into too much into people that are in this world, that's part of laying your treasures too. Okay. Now this is talking about actual physical treasures. Okay, because it speaks about something decaying, all right, or being rusted, all right. But as far as like family, your family will get up and leave you, right? Your woman will commit adultery on you, all right? Your kids will be disobedient, if you laying your treasures into, putting your mind too much into that, all right? That can also, decay in a sense, all right? But it says, but lay up for yourselves treasures in heaven, where neither moth nor rust doth corrupt, and where thieves do not break through nor steal. For where your treasure is, there will your heart be also. Right? And one of those infinite treasures that we lay up, or ought to lay up, is hope, confidence in Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai, His way, His prophecies, okay? The things that He said was going to come to pass. And truly believe these things to be faithful and true. And move in a manner character-wise towards it. Okay? Now circling back to this, as soon as I heard the elder say this, I started examining myself. Let's get this. The book of Sirach 19. And I'm going to get the last two verses. It's Sirach 19 and verse 29. It says, a man may be known by his look, and one that hath understanding by his countenance when thou meetest him. Okay? It says, a man's attire and excessive laughter and gait shew what he is, which is, the point. Because when you get into that word gait, it means a man's manner of walking. And this is not gait as in G-A-T-E, but G-A-I-T. Okay? Which in the Etum, from the circa 1300, it says a going or walking, departure or journey. Okay? So it's our manner of walking. And our manner of walking, how, it says that in the book of 2 Peter, how should we be in all holy conversation and godliness? How should we be operating, especially in these last days where you have these prophecies of Yahweh Hashem Yahweh Shai are picking up speed, man. Okay? The Lord is visiting this earth with massive floods, tornadoes. Okay? There's a massive flood that just hit. What is that in I was just looking at it, like southeast Missouri. Okay? There's a major flood in China. All right? And also like recently you had those two major earthquakes that hit Venezuela back to back, leaving hundreds, maybe even thousands dead and missing. You see, men walking into their own lust, denying the prophecies, scoffing at the prophecies, which the Most High said all these things will come in the last times. So how should we, that call ourselves men of the Lord, how should we be operating in all holy conversation and godliness? Which conversation is one and the same with Gait, because it's our conduct, our way of living. So keeping that with the definition of that word Gait in mind, I'll read it again. Sirach 19, verse 30. It says, a man's attire, excessive laughter, and manner of walking shew what he is. Okay? So our manner of walking, Is it acceptable in the eyes of Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai? And is this truly where our confidence is in Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai? You know, 2 Corinthians 13 and verse 5 says, examine yourselves whether ye be in the faith. Prove your own selves. Know ye not your own selves, how that Yahweh Shai Mashiach is in you, except ye be reprobates? Right? And going into that word examine goes into Strong's G3985, which is perazo, which is to make a trying of. All right, let's actually pull it up. Because I looked at it not too long ago, but I'll bring it up just so I can get all the meat off the bone. Right? So Strong's G3985, perazo, which is to try whether a thing can be done, to attempt, endeavor, to try, make trial of, test for the purpose of asserting his quality or what he thinks or how he will behave himself. Okay? In a good sense, in a bad sense, to test one maliciously, craftily to put to proof his feelings or judgments, to try or test one's faith, virtue, character by enticement to sin. Okay? If thou comest to serve the Lord, prepare thy soul for temptation. Okay? The Most High doesn't, what does it say in, I believe it's Sirach 15 and 20, he give no man license to sin, but the Most High will allow situations to happen, you know, to that we may prove our souls, man. All right? Sirach 2nd chapter, beautiful chapter, right? It says, for acceptable men are tried in the furnace of adversity. You know, and how do we react to adversity? How do we react to rebuke? How do we react when things aren't going too well? You know, are we remaining faithful? There's a scripture, and I cannot find it for the life of me, but I believe it was King David, where he said, yet have I not left thy precepts, right? I'm trying to think of the wording. You know, he was going, you know, like saying how he was being persecuted, but yet have I not forgotten thy precepts, or something to that matter. I'm going to look it up. This is not it, but this is nah, that's not it. Yeah. This is not it, but this is pretty close. This is Psalms 119 and verse 143. It says, trouble and anguish have taken hold on me, yet thy commandments are my delights. Thy righteousness of thy testimonies is everlasting. Give me understanding and I shall live. So, and I have to say, I think there was a myriad of different men that were musicians that were writing this song. I'll have to see exactly verse 143. Excuse me, I don't know why I scrolled to the top. So it looks like Zadi, right? Which is Psalms 119 and 137 is where, you know, he wrote this portion where he says, I am troubled and distressed, but yet thy let's read it again. Yet thy commandments are my delights. You know, so that was a form of being tried. You know, because we're troubled on every side. We're despised, man. You know, we're putting in unfair situation. We're in an unfair situation. We're here in Babylon the Great, where you have servants upon horses and princes walking upon the earth. All right, and we have to deal with it. Why? Because we disobeyed Yahweh Sham Yahweh Shai. You know, now when you look at the world, you know, and their trouble and their anguish, they turn from Yahweh Shem Yahweh Shai. Like it says, they turned their back from me and not their face. They have pulled away the shoulder. They refused to hear me. Okay? But, we through the Spirit and power of Yahweh Shem Shai have been enlightened to know that this should make us turn more to our power. And this is the same way we admonish the so-called Negroes, so-called Hispanics, and so-called Native Americans. This is the same way we admonish. Okay? And don't turn from the Lord, but turn to him, man. It says that he's our fortress and our refuge in times of trouble. We're in times of trouble. Okay? So, let me see. Was there something else that I want to get? Yeah, there's one. I'm going to end off on this precept here. In the book of Jeremiah 17 and verse 7, which is, one of the brothers here, the brother Isaiah, if not one of his favorite scriptures, it is his favorite scripture. I hear this brother quote this a lot, which is Jeremiah 17 and 7. It says, blessed is the man that trusted in Yahweh and whose hope Yahweh is. And that's what fully leaning into Yahweh Bashem Yahweh Shai in every situation. The good, the bad, the ugly, the uncertain, the certain, you name it. And makes me think of Sirach 2 and 10, where it says, name whoever trusted in the Lord and was confounded. All right, and whoever put their trust in him and was despised. Okay, so once again, I just pray that this is edifying, man. That statement, if I can find that statement, I'll also put that here within the post-production. I'll edit it in. But it's very paramount, man. That matter of fact, let's get one more precept and I'll leave it there. In the book of 1 Corinthians, let's see. First Corinthians 11 and 26. It says, for as often as ye eat this bread, let's go up to 24, right? 23, it says, for I have received of the Lord that which also I delivered unto you, that the Lord Yahweh Shai, the same night in which he was betrayed, took bread, and when he had given thanks, he brake it and said, take, eat, this is my body, which is broken for you. This do in remembrance of me. So since we've been enlightened and we've been brought into this fold, the fold of the hopeful elect, okay, it's not to be taken for granted, man. This truth is not to be treated like shit, okay? Because it says that, if we're treating the truth like shit, what does it say? It says that we're ultimately nailing Yahweh Shai back to the cross, man. Making his sacrifice of no avail. And he ain't going back up on that cross. He's not going on that cross again. So let's continue on. It says, after the same manner also he took the cup when he had supped, saying, this cup is the New Testament in my blood. This do ye as oft as ye drink it in remembrance of me. For as often as ye eat this bread and drink this cup, ye do shew the Lord's death till he come. Wherefore, and this is the point, it says, wherefore, whosoever shall eat this bread and drink this cup of the Lord unworthily shall be guilty of the body and blood of the Lord. But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup. So we're part of this fold. There ought to be in examination, right? And just wanted to get that word unworthily for edification's sake. Strong's G371, exiles, which it says in an unworthy manner, irreverently, unworthily. Let's see what the root says, but add a little bit more. Unworthy, unfit for a thing. Because this truth ain't for everybody. Even it says that, that's why it says many are called and few are chosen.
So we do have to examine ourselves, because the Most High, just because He called us into this thing, and we're teaching His name, we're teaching His prophecies. Okay, we're hitting the highways and the hedges. We're putting up videos. If our manner of living is unfit in His eyes, then we're you're eating of the bread and drinking of the cup unworthily, man. All right. So that's why it says, "But let a man examine himself, and so let him eat of that bread and drink of that cup." So I'll leave it there. I pray that this was an edifying lesson, man. I want to give all praise, honor, and glory unto Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Racha HaKodash. Double honor to the elders, apostles, and the bishops at Great Millstone. Peace, love, and salutations is to the elect. Shalom.